Hey guys, and welcome to this video where I will show you how to drastically increase the conversion rate of your store by implementing a few performance and speed optimization tactics. So stick with me till the end and I'm sure that you will be able to increase the sales of your online store as well. So first, let's discuss why it's so important to have a very quick website and why the performance matters so much. Here is a blog post from Kissmetrics, and they say that every second counts, and after every second you lose a given amount of people. So after around 4 seconds, you will lose 25% of all your visitors because simply they don't want to wait that long. And you can see here when this goes up to like 10 seconds, at some point you lose half of your visitors. And of course, at some point this number goes higher and higher and higher. Now, if you think about it, let's say you use Facebook ads to drive sales and visitors to your online store, and you're losing 25% of them because of loading speed. This is like wasting 25% of your ad budget immediately simply because your website is not performing well enough. And this doesn't only have to be loading speed, right? It can also be things like your navigation is very bad. And all these things together can really lose you a lot of visitors. So let's have a look at the first thing that you can do to check whether your speed is good or not. And one super common tool here is Google PageSpeed Insights. It's normally the first tool that I check to see how my website is doing. And then the second one that is actually a little less common is the GT Metrics Performance Report. And here you will get an aggregated view from PageSpeed Insights and Why Slow. And you can also use some others if you have the premium version, but typically these two here are definitely enough to find out how well you're doing. So what PageSpeed Insights does, it shows you the speed of your website and some ways to improve it. So if I enter Amazon.com right here, it says that it's analyzing, and after the analysis is done, it shows you how well your desktop, how well your page is responding to desktop traffic and to mobile traffic. So you can see here that on mobile, there is some room for optimization, even on Amazon.com, but in general, it's good. So you have this green check mark right here. Everything is good. On desktop, this could definitely be improved. So you can see even the big guys like Amazon sometimes lack this kind of speed. And this is the first one I always have a look at, but the second one is actually GT Metrics. And here I've actually typed in the website of one of my clients, and he got a page speed score of 78%, so on Google PageSpeed Insights, and this is more than the average of 71. But his Y Slow score was only 59%, which is less than the average of 69%. So the reason you should actually have a look at GT Metrics is that PageSpeed Insights, using PageSpeed Insights only, can be a little difficult because it doesn't reflect anything. If you use both these scores here and they, for example, one shows you an A and the other one shows you a D, it means that there might be something on your website that isn't too good. So I would recommend to definitely check out both. And this definitely helps you to get more and more knowledge on why your website is not performing as you wish. So you can see here when you look at page speed, right, you have a grade for all kind of things. For example, my client right here has Minify JavaScript. He has an A in that 94, which is more than the average of 88. Minify HTML, surf scaled images, specify image dimensions, and all these things. But he is very poorly, he performs very poorly at leveraging browser caching, defer parsing of JavaScript, and inline small CSS. Now, many of these things are very technical. They cannot be like optimized quickly and easily, but what you can do is you can go to Upwork or Fiverr or whatever and get a developer to actually fix some of these issues. Of course, they should be comfortable with your platform. So if you're using Shopify, then of course you should find someone who has experience in optimizing Shopify stores. But this is something you can do, especially if your store is a little bigger, so that you can justify to pay a developer. But once your store is getting bigger, it will definitely pay off to just increase your website speed by like 1 second. Even if you can increase it by like 1 second, you can make thousands and thousands of dollars in additional sales every single month. So this is the first thing I recommend to do: PageSpeed Insights and the latest performance report from GTmetrix. And this is a very quick and free way to find out how well you're doing. The second thing that I always like to check is to have a look in Google Analytics to see how the page and different parts of the page are performing. So you can see here in this account, we had 472 page view samples in the past week, because not every visitor will actually send a page view sample automatically. And the average page load time was 3.99 seconds, which isn't too bad, but it's also not great either. And this gives you a more dedicated view on how, for example, the speed developed over time. We can see here it was a little bit slower, here was a little bit less, but typically these ranges don't have a very particular reason. But another powerful thing is to have a look at page timings, because here you can see whether there are certain pages that take way longer to load. So if you would see that one page takes really long to load, like 80% longer, 100% longer than the rest, this means that you should have definitely should have a deeper look on this specific page. It could be because you have some very big images on this page or some code that isn't working, and it gives you way more granular look than the PageSpeed Insight, for example. So I would have a look at the overview to see how your page speed looks like in general in terms of absolute seconds, and then go into the page timings, where you are then able to identify the pages that are actually load the longest. If you do these both things, you have a very clear picture on how well your store is performing in terms of site speed. The third thing that's super important is to have a look at your images, because these files can be super big if you don't watch out. Like if you download stock photos at their normal resolution of, I don't know, probably 3000 times 2000 pixels or something, these files can easily be 2, 3, 4 megabytes big. So I recommend that you get some kind of image optimization apps. For example, Image Optimizer, which has very good reviews on the Shopify App Store. But there are many others that you can use to optimize your images. If you get this one here, you can optimize 1,000 images per month for only $5 a month. Probably you don't even need 1,000 images, so you can just look for other optimization apps. But in general, these are super powerful. I've seen people literally taking their page timings from 7 seconds all the way down to 2 seconds just by optimizing all their images because they were so big. So if you feel like you could have pretty large image file sizes, I recommend that you absolutely get one of these apps and run it on your store, and you will see how the performance will increase almost immediately. And now we come to number 4, which is actually that you should minimize the number of apps that you are using. So if you're a Shopify store owner, you know that there are thousands of apps basically for anything that you possibly want. And I know this from myself. Sometimes I see new cool apps and I think, oh, I definitely need this. I have to check it out. I have to test it. And I don't uninstall it once I'm not using it anymore. So it's not uncommon to have like 10, 15, 20 different apps in your online store, but you're only using like 5 or 10 of them, right? So this is something that you should absolutely do. This should really become a habit of yours, that every app that you don't need or use anymore, you should remove it immediately, because it takes up code, it's messing up with your site code, with other apps, and it just causes delays and performance problems if you keep all those apps, even though they're not necessary. So of course there are a few apps like probably Oberlo or some kind of urgency apps or image apps or whatever you're using, but really have a close eye on which apps you need and which you don't need, because you should only install an app if it's worth the potential performance problems that it may bring. So whenever you install a new app, think about this: do I really need this app right now, or is it just some tiny little thing that I'm doing here? And only if you say, yes, this is definitely useful and powerful, then you should install this app, and once you don't use it anymore, immediately delete it to prevent those problems. The next pitfall you should absolutely avoid is to remove the amount of dead links that you have. So dead links are whenever you point to a website on your website that you cannot reach, right? So when it's like a 404 error message or something, all these links require an HTTP request, And if you have a lot of them, this will slow down your website. So I recommend to use this tool called brokenlinkcheck.com, and you can enter your URL right here and find broken links, and it shows you like, hey, you have this broken link, this, so you don't have to go through it manually. The tool is entirely free. It's super easy to use, so I recommend that once your site is finished, once you're ready to advertise, you quickly enter your site in brokenlinkcheck.com and get rid of all those broken links that just caused your website to slow down. And of course, they will also confuse your visitors a lot. Another mistake that I see many people doing is to use sliders even though they're not necessary. So you know these hero sliders that many Shopify themes have in place by default. Sometimes they look quite cool, but they are really bad for your performance usually. So if you have, for example, a slider with 5 different images and they all have to run through automatically, this not only sometimes is quite annoying on mobile, but it's also a performance killer. So think about whether you really need these sliders. Like sometimes it makes sense because it really looks cool on your site, or because you want to tell a story or something. But if you just have them in place because they were there from the beginning, or you don't have any real reason, think about getting rid of them, because they will definitely slow down your website, and normally they don't have a huge benefit. Like there were many tests that websites with just single images perform better than those who have 5 or 7 or 3 different images in place through a slider. And ultimately, one more thing that is not commonly seen as an issue for performance is that you should really think about using Quick View. So Quick View is normally a pretty cool feature that you can implement in your store so that people can check your product without really going to the product page. But the problem here is that all this information has to be loaded into this pop-up. So it can be quite time consuming or quite performance consuming if you want to use this. And you really have to decide individually if this makes sense for you. So of course it can be tempting to use this, like if you want to really give people that very quick buying experience, like hey, you just have to quick view, you don't have to visit the page. But normally it's not that necessary. For example, I know from myself that I rather see a product in the full product page where I have all the information instead of having these very quick versions right here. So think about it individually, whether it makes sense for you. Maybe even do a split test, how you perform using Quick View and how you perform not using Quick View. And so yeah, these have been my 7 whether you should actually tips on how to increase performance and site speed on your online store. I really hope that they help you, and really hope that you implement them right now so that you can increase your conversion rates, just as my client from the beginning did. So thanks a lot for watching the video. If you like it, please leave a like below. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more e-commerce videos on a weekly basis. And I really hope that this will help you growing your business. So until then, see you in the next video, and bye bye.